On the news at 11, troops in the district on guard and on the streets for a second week now. Thank you for staying up with us. I'm Leslie Foster. Hundreds of National Guard boots are on the ground across the city and in your neighborhood. Here are 3 things you need to know before you call it a night. At this hour, more GOP governors are making plans to send guard units at the president's request. The troops are from Mississippi, West Virginia, South Carolina, Ohio, Louisiana, and now Tennessee. Second, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser reiterated today that Chief Pamela Smith is still in charge despite the federal crackdown on crime. And she also highlighted D.C. police data showing violent crime is already down 26% this year. And according to the White House, about 380 people have been arrested since the crackdown began last week. That includes 137 over the weekend. Ends our coverage from Union Station. Matt, I know you've spent the last couple of hours driving around. What did you see here and what did you hear?
You know, Leslie, within the last 40 minutes is when the National Guard actually sort of left their post here at Union Station. But when we were going through D.C. to some of the more violent neighborhoods over the last year or so, we found folks there who said, listen, the federal police presence, despite the surge, has been not really existent there. In fact, to them, it's been business as usual. In Southeast, near St. Elizabeth's campus, in the span of 90 minutes, 2 separate shootings a block away from each other. Neighbors said they wouldn't speak on camera, but they said they haven't seen an increased federal police presence patrolling. And that's interesting because following our map of parts of the city that see the most violent crimes, those areas that are darker shaded, this is one of those neighborhoods. So following this map, we went north to another area on Minnesota Avenue.
So there is no presence.
ANC Tom Donahue.
Our murders are up in our ANC by 3.
Standing aside ANC Andrea Davis from Ward 8 both said something similar.
What we're seeing is them focusing on areas that really don't have a lot of crime.
Make people come in from other states to sit outside of Union Station? Make it make sense.
From there, following the map, we crossed the river and headed up to Benning Road.
This year has been really rough, starting in the spring. We had a shooting at 8:30 in the morning while kids were still in school.
Neighbor Brennan Dorn says this show of force checkpoint is one of the few increased federal presences she's seen in this higher crime area.
So we have actually seen increased MPD presence in our neighborhood over the last several weeks before any of this discussion about the federal takeover.
But Dorn echoes something that both of our ANCs said as well. She doesn't think increased federal presence will help either.
I don't see a way that they can actually make a difference. I can see a way that the MPD can work with the community to start taking a more proactive approach and start building relationships with the community, with the violence interrupters.
I'd like to sum up everything that many of our people who spoke to said kind of off camera at different times, was that they said, you know, is this the worst crime, a crisis like President Trump said in D.C.? They said, no, not by a long shot. This is not even the worst they've ever lived through. But they did want to point out that that doesn't mean just because the president is wrong and blowing out of proportion that there aren't pockets of violent crime that need to be dealt with. And what they really want to see, they said, is a more nuanced conversation from both sides about crime in D.C. Outside of Union Station, I'm Matt Gregory. Back to you.
Let's hope they get that conversation and soon. Matt.